Welcome back to the podcast, Who You Are Is Okay. I'm Clayton Reed Jones, CRJ, author of the book, Who Else Could It Be But God? My relationships led me to him. My current memoir is entitled Trauma, My Love Letter to the World. If you guys would like to follow the progress of my current memoir, you can find me on Instagram at CRJ_author. Connect with me on Facebook, Clayton Jones, or like the author page on Facebook, Author Clayton Reed Jones. Special shout out to Cam Sounds for producing the music for this podcast. You guys can find him on Instagram at Cam_Sounds. Connect with him on Facebook, Cameron J. Starrett, and check out his website, camsgotmusic.com. Special shout out to the homie Dre and Influential Promotions, and sending mad love out to Dante Johnson, who created the artwork. Fam, I want to, this episode, I just want to talk about the current state of things, and I want to share a text message I received, and I want to share something that I wrote on my social media page regarding the mind state and our mental health and how our minds are so fragile and vulnerable. So with that, I felt compelled. There was a time when I was contemplating different things in my mind. Mental health issues are real, as we all know. The mind is very powerful and yet so fragile, especially when your archetype is one of a thinker. When you live inside your mind and your consciousness expands, you begin to see the world through a different lens. Everything you've come to know no longer looks the same, inciting fear, bringing on a state of paranoia. Desperately, you fight trying to hold on to what you know, and it becomes impossible for you to see the way things used to be. You find yourself in no man's land, questioning who you are and being tortured by a feeling of isolation. You're unaware you're on a road to a discovery of a lifetime, and being alone is the very thing that's needed. You grow tired of fighting the fight, trying to get back to the way things were, so you surrender to the way things were meant to be. It was then the magic happened. I thought I was giving up, but profoundly what I discovered was me. As my consciousness expands, I take it one day at a time, realizing to actualize is to heal. We don't get there overnight, and we can't arrive in denial. It's beautiful when we just let our consciousness be free. Fam, maybe some of our mental health issues are the result of us trying to fit something infinite into a finite space. The other day, I received a text message, and the text message came from a source that I'm used to getting these kind of messages, but I was very much disappointed because it was from my dad. And normally I don't like to speak on things like this, personal things, but it really disappointed me and it saddened me. I received a text message stating this: I know you don't want to hear this. Starting soon, mandatory face masks for everyone while they're out in public statewide. So my response to him was, if you know that I don't want to hear this, why are you sending this to me? Now, you see, oftentimes we debate, and I know people try to agitate for reasons of wanting to debate with you and just get under your skin. And it's cool, especially when we're doing it in fun and in love, and it's harmless. But when you start using things like this, I just don't understand why he would want to do something that really affects my mental state. The whole idea of mandates, the whole idea of restrictions, anybody telling me that I can't do something, that goes against my nature. I'm a free spirit. And I think if we all think about ourselves, every single human being's instinct is to fight against someone trying to refrain you from doing something or holding you down. Think about when you were a child and your mom put you on punishment. What type of anguish, what type of angst and frustration and anxiety that came with being on punishment. Just the whole word lockdown or mandate or someone telling me what to do. Like, I cannot fathom the idea of someone telling me or having any type of authority over my life. The nature of the spirit is to be free, to do what we want to do, to live openly, loudly, boldly, evolve, move about. You know, it's all about free choice, being free to spread your wings and just do whatever you want to do, especially when what you do isn't harming anyone else and you're not trying to harm anyone else. And I know people will say, well, you know, with this virus, you know, it's a public health issue and you can harm other people. But I just want to say this, fam. And this is just my thoughts. But trying to stop the spread of a virus, because right now, and I don't know how it is in the rest of the country, but here in Maryland, the governor came out yesterday and he spoke, and he's trying to go back to phase 1 of the reopening protocol. So when we were on lockdown, we started lifting the restrictions, but he did it in phases. Phase 1, phase 2, yada, yada, yada. Now he's going back to one of the previous phases, trying to cut things down. 25% occupancy in bars and restaurants, not even bars, like no bars, but only restaurant, and no serving drinks and no standing up in bars, and, you know, wearing masks in public spaces, whether you're indoor or outdoor. And this is the thing about that, being outdoors, and people hear the word airborne and they think that it's in the air. The atmosphere and oxygen is a must. You need oxygen for your cells. You need oxygen so that your immune system can work properly, and the blood needs oxygen. The whole point of respiration is for you to expel all the carbon and the toxins out and take in fresh air. So to think that a virus is in the air, no, airborne just means like if I sneeze, then it can travel within that. You know, it's airborne like that, but it's not in the air. So for me to be outside and having a face covering on, to me, that's counterproductive, and that puts me at a greater health risk. But so many people are so consumed with the narrative that's being spewed in the media that everyone is neglecting mental health. When they tell you that this virus, and this is their words and their statistics, that 99% of people that contract the virus recover, I have to think that the numbers in terms of mental health damage is greater. Because when you start suffering angst, anxiety, panic attacks, and Lord knows what else may occur as you start spiraling down this dark path, ain't no telling how you can recover. The mind is so very fragile. Once you go into some darkness and dark place, it's hard to come back from that. And I definitely believe that more people are affected from a mental health standpoint during this pandemic than it has been from the virus. But to ramp up this fear, to ramp up whatever the agenda is, and then people can dispute me on that, that's fine. I just believe it's a personal agenda. But whatever it is, to ramp it up, you have this narrative in the media about how it's spiking again, how fast it's spreading. And yet, if you look around the country, if it was really that potent, if it was really that deadly, and it was spreading that rapidly, you wouldn't let certain institutions make up their own protocol. If you look at the sports leagues, they gave the NBA free reign to come up with their own protocol. It was almost as if, as long as you come up with something, then that will suffice. You have to show that you're doing something, but it wasn't like mandates on them to follow the strict protocols that were already in place by the CDC. The protocols for the NFL, if you look at that, it's very contradictory to what the CDC put in place. I remember there was a time if one person tests positive, let's say in your workspace or in your family or anywhere in your environment, everyone needed to quarantine. But now with the NFL, if a player tests positive, they're trying to do this contact tracing, which to me, it's not a valid way or true tested way to pull data in terms of who you came in close contact, because you have to interview the individual and take data based on their words. It's no other tracing, I don't believe. If I'm wrong, please correct me on that. Leave a comment and tell me how this contact tracing is really working. From my understanding, you get test positive, they interview you and they take data from you, asking you some of the places you went and can you identify some of the people you may have been in close contact with. But that's the data. So to me, that's not very, very accurate. So with this, when a person gets positive in the NFL, you have to quarantine, and then the few people that you may name that you have came in close contact with, they need the protocol. I mean, they need to quarantine for 5 days and test every day. And if they get so many negative tests, then they're good. But I remember the NBA shut their whole season down, shut a whole team down. The team that played that team, they had to shut down because the unknown, because it was so spread. And now, if you listen to the media right now and all the spiking, the NFL is still doing whatever they want to do. Yeah, they're taking precautionary measures. Yeah, somebody quarantined, they go on a COVID list and contact tracing. They might identify maybe 5 other players that was in close contact, so they quarantine for 5 days and keep testing. But then if they test negative, they're back on the field. But they're telling you that this is spiking, is ramping, and now here in Maryland, the governor is coming out and he's starting to go back toward mandates and restrictions again to stop the spread. So I'm not a rocket science, and I don't think it takes rocket science to try to look at this thing like the Ravens had an individual, Marlon Humphrey, that tested positive. His test took place on a Sunday before the game. And then Monday, the results came back and he was positive, but he had played that game Sunday. So the other team that he played, he was tackling players. He was in the game. To me, both teams, per the CDC, would have been forced to quarantine. In the NFL, now they're reporting record number of cases, like 56 players throughout the league, whatever. That number is up, and it's still just business as usual. I remember Nick Saban, the coach for Alabama, he tested positive, and he said he's going to be on the field Saturday. So he kept testing and kept getting negative results. And so he was able to play on Sunday after a positive test. The NFL was the first institution that introduced this false positive narrative. I was screaming that I believe these tests can give you any kind of result that they want to give you, meaning that a lot of these coronavirus diagnoses weren't true. But yet when the NFL say false positive, no one's questioning them. No one is crucifying this organization. No one is doing any pushback against the NFL for making these kind of claims so they can continue with their NFL season. But yet our governor comes out and he says that it's the people. We're to blame for the spread because we're going to family functions and we're going to private parties and we're not wearing masks. So to me, I just think about this. Right now in the media, there's a new media blitz to heighten the spread and to get us back in the frame of mind and condition us. They're massaging us with this idea we're going back on lockdown, back on restrictions. And I think they're really trying to restrict us as much as they can so that when they start pushing a vaccine, people will be so thirsty to get back to their free liberties and things like that, they'll be willing to take a vaccine. But if we think about this, fam, I'm going to leave us on this note. Just think about this. Trying to stop the spread of a virus that, according to them, each day is spreading by the thousands. It's like trying to kill mice to stop them from breeding. It's happening too fast for it not to reach every human. I apologize, but I can't suspend my disbelief on this one. And please don't try to convince me, because I'm not trying to convince you. My thoughts are my therapy. And people have been and are wearing masks. Everywhere I go, I see them. So to say that people aren't and that people are not wearing them in family gatherings and private parties, it's amazing to me. How can you monitor everyone and know what they're doing? Fam, focus on good things. As I always say, your peace is your protection. You know, when there's no answers out within the landscape. In all actuality, I'm really excited about the times we're in, because these things and these pressures and the angst and things like that, it forces us to look within. And to me, within is where we'll find all the answers. I love y'all. Godspeed.